Alright YouTube, time for another garden update. You can see all the Nicotiana are looking nice. I'm remaking this video from earlier. The Nicotiana hadn't quite opened up then. Now they're actually opening up as late afternoon, early evening approaches. They start to open up a little bit. And I also freshly watered everything so it's looking vibrant. You can see lots and lots of zinnias, all sorts of colors in there. Those are really nice. Actually, I used to hate zinnias. For some reason, I love them now. California poppies. There's a buzzy bee there on the hollyhocks. There's actually a lot more honeybees this year and fewer bumblebees. I've only seen 2 or 3 bumblebees, but I've seen dozens and dozens of honeybees. There must be a nest around here because I did see them swarming at one point, but it's nowhere on the property, or else I would have caught it. The zucchini and cabbage I finally took out. It was completely eaten by rabbits. No reason to leave it there to rot and spread disease potentially. Nice sunflowers, of course, with little gnats and so forth on them. This one's almost 7 feet high. This one over here, which appears to be one of the supposedly smaller varieties, actually is growing. That's probably about 9 feet high, so that's and this one's taller than me now actually too, which it wasn't before. This is mostly clear, but there's plenty of perennials in here. Next year, all those perennials get moved, and that's going to be an herb garden. And you can see, I believe in here, there was a henbane plant growing. Give you a good look. That's what henbane looks like. Fuzzy stem, kind of fuzzy leaves, grayish color to the stem because it's literally white with trichomes. Deadly poisonous. Very, very dangerous to handle. Lots of lilies, of course. These Nicotiana are in the shade, so they're all opened up already for the night. You can probably hear the crickets. This corn has been mostly a success. These 2 rows here, they're about shoulder height. They'll produce just fine. The next one's, midriff height. Yeah, that'll probably catch up. This one's more like waist height. This 4th row here, other than right on the end, I don't know if it'll do anything. This tomato plant that I transplanted is absolutely gigantic, and it got nibbled down, and it's still huge. This top stem is getting up towards shoulder height. I've never seen that happen actually with a transplanted tomato before. Usually it stunts their growth a little bit, and this one's not doing too bad either. You can see a little bit of damage to a couple of the stems where it got nibbled on, probably, I don't know, deer or something. But they're producing. They'll be fine. And yeah, this piece of corn right on the end is just about as tall as me, honestly. This is completely overgrown. I mowed freshly earlier. This corn is some good shit. Even the smallest corn here is, midriff height. That will produce. It just won't produce cobs that are quite as big. But you can see some cobs are starting on these plants. Several of them have already started. Look at this one right here. That's already getting nice and fleshed out there. I have great expectations for the corn this year because it's loaded. This one's weird. This corn plant has 3 tassels on it instead of 1. And I'm not sure exactly what caused that. I didn't plant like 3 corn plants there. It's all 1 plant. I don't know how, it must be mutated or something. This one's kind of fucked up too. It doesn't have any like little stems coming off the side. I honestly don't know. It's got fucked up somehow, trust me. Actually, several of these corn plants are more than head height, so those are fine. You can see out back they did some clearing. Those berry plants out there, that patch, absolutely fucking loaded. And this compost is doing well too. I've been, mulching it up, watering it. It's rotting really fast. That'll all be ready by fall. What I'm going to do is spread it around this area and here, which didn't get it before. And this whole row here is going to be a giant perennial border. And this will actually be outside of the fence. There won't be a fence here next year, nor will there be a fence around most of this bed. The end of it's going to get chopped off. What I'm going to do is right about here will be about the end of the fence. That way all this stuff is inside, because that'll exclude the rabbits from getting in. I'm going to put in a totally new fence. It's going to be higher. It's also going to go a good 1.5 feet into the ground, just to keep the rabbits out. I'm tired of that shit. I'm going to redig all of the beds, like all the edging. I'm going to get more bricks. I'm going to get everything. Compost, cow shit, anything under the sun. It's going to be just filled with nutrients. I'm going to get a couple boxes of bone meal. I'm just going to spread it everywhere early in the spring before I even plant anything, just to get it so filled with nutrients that I can grow fucking anything. Because what I want, this soil is good. There's nothing wrong with this soil. And this soil is even better. It got a little bit more added to it. But this soil here, even if unwatered, it's just the crumbliest, grainiest, grittiest, soiliest smelling dirt I've ever worked with. It's like literally perfect. Dry or wet, it retains its qualities, full of aggregates. Anything can grow on it other than zucchini that gets, eaten down by rabbits. But I mean, the Nicotiana love it. Sunflower obviously likes it. The Swiss chard was huge. It's the only place where the greens actually grew. So I've got to replicate the quality of that soil and the depth to all the other beds. But what I'm going to do, and these are my plans, and you see over here, got watered, and it's nice, and it's peaceful. Nothing really spectacular there at the moment. Most of those flowers have gone by. What I'm going to do is, when the fence goes in, again, roughly here, actually I think I might move it over here, and then I can shorten this bed up by, 3 feet or so, and this one up by like half a foot. I'm going to split that. The end will be grass. Another bed will begin right about here, and it'll continue to about here. Then there'll be another gap to roughly here, and then the third bed that'll come out to about here. That way there'll be 3 beds instead of 2. They'll be narrower and about the same length. Or, conversely, I was thinking, I was going to put a bed lengthwise right through here. It would get mostly sun. Actually, it's a great location. Or, because these beds will be narrower and I'll be able to work on both sides and get the whole bed, what I might do is just bring them out here and have 3 very long, slightly narrower beds that'll be, about the same width as this, except I'll be able to access it on both ends. This one, meanwhile, is going to get shortened up substantially by about 3 feet, and I'm going to bring it out another foot this way. The gate will actually have to be moved along with this border. It's going to be a huge amount of work, but finally I'll be able to reach every square inch of all the beds without having to step inside them, number 1. That's important. Number 2, they'll be more nutritious. The dirt will be a lot thicker. It'll be more organic. Number 3, the fence will be improved. No more rabbit invasions, no more deer, no more neighbors' dogs. I don't mind the dogs. They don't really, they don't eat vegetables. They might go after the rabbits, and they're welcome to it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't give a fuck. But I'll have actually more room. The garden will it'll feel smaller. It'll be more compact because you won't have these big, wide green spaces. Instead, there'll be narrower paths between them. Ultimately, I'll actually have a slightly bigger garden. It'll just occupy a smaller overall area. It won't have all that inefficient space that's not really useful for anything. I like the aesthetics of the garden the way it is now, but what I've always wanted to do is have it more utilitarian, so that's really what I'm going for. Meanwhile, all this, which will all be outside of the fence, I'm going to turn into one god almighty fucking perennial bed. It's going to be nothing but lilies and poppies. There's going to be lots and lots of rhubarb. There's going to be horseradish scattered around. All these plants, they're going to stay where they are. Look at the size of these fucking horseradish plants. Look at all the stems that are coming off of them. This one especially. But the one thing above all that I'm not looking forward to, I'll tell you what it is. It has nothing to do with the fence, has nothing to do with the bricks, nothing to do with the cost, yada, yada, yada. It's this. This horseradish plant is the oldest of these bunches. The one right next to here, pushing on these bricks and bulging them all the way out. I can barely even move that. See that shit? Look at how big the top of the root is. I don't remember exactly how old that plant is, but I guarantee... Ooh. Grasshopper. But I guarantee that root probably goes 4 or 5 feet into the ground. I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing. I'm going to dig around it for like 3 feet. I'm going to try to get as much out as possible, because I'm going to take that, I'm going to macerate it, put in some other goodies. I'm just going to make like 5 pounds of horseradish dip, and I'm going to get a huge thing of chips. And I'm just going to sit there and eat the whole thing until I sweat and die, honestly. But yeah, next year the garden will be properly defended. And I'm even going to put a bunch of manure on the outside where the perennials will be. Some of this won't actually be bed. I want it a little bit further, actually. I want enough room between the eventual garden fence, again, about here-ish. And I want it to go about to here, honestly, as a green space. That way I can mow in between, I can access the fence more easily, you know, than having flowers up against it, number one. Number two, it'll actually allow, if anyone needs to service this power line, won't have a problem because they can get right up through it. I mean, usually they'd go up around the back of the house, but I mean, I don't want to inconvenience anyone. It's just not necessary. But yeah, I mean, it's barely August, and this corn is looking pretty good. Honestly, for this time of year, that's pretty damn good. You can see some of it back there. Shit, that one back there is fleshing out too. You know, all these plants will produce a huge amount of corn. Nice sweet corn, yellow bantam or golden bantam, can't remember. And then all of these, at least these 2 rows, will produce ears. So that's going to be a substantial second harvest of corn. Yeah, so a huge amount of work. The garden got kind of dilapidated. I'm tired though. I've got the income now, so I don't have to worry about spending a few hundred on fixing the fence. At the very least, that has to be done. Even if I didn't do anything else, that alone would make the garden 1,000 times better than having everything eaten down. Like, I mean, these collards, I ripped those out too. There's exactly one collard plant that actually kind of survived here. I'm just going to leave it there and let the rabbits eat it, and then that one's, you know, dilapidated. I'm just going to leave it, honestly. I'm not going to bother pulling it out. But all that catnip and stuff, it's going to all be outside of the fence, and it's going to look a lot better. And that'll produce sort of a privacy screen, too, for anyone that wanders through. And then I can also have a little stepping area right where the corn is now, down onto the path that runs back here. There's actually about a 3-foot drop, and then there's a little path that winds over around the berries. It'd be nice to actually put some topsoil in, put some cement bricks in, and make that look attractive. Maybe even have a little bed that's on the property, and the property goes over the side for a few yards. It'd be on the property, but it wouldn't look like it. It'd be like a little nature path, like a little hobbit trail or something. I just think that'd be great. Shit, that corn back there, I think that's the largest ear right now. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of good corn, but a huge amount of work, but it's going to be worth it. That's about all. Peace out. Oh, yeah, I'll leave you with the secret flower growing in amongst the corn. Peace out.